not a scientist, but apparently what it's doing is it's rerouting the neural pathways in your brain to perceive the world in a way that is more positive. And I can really vouch for it. Hello and welcome to another episode of The Wild Dispatch. This is another one of the skills toolbox kind that I've been doing for a little while now. I should probably plan these a little better, but it seems to be that I start recording them only when I get the feeling like I should. I have the idea of doing it, and I've got my stuff with me, got my phone, so why not just record it now? I feel like today is a good day to talk about another trick that I found really helpful in many different ways. Actually, also in the world of outdoor adventure, hunting, but also just in life. But first, before I talk about that, I should probably actually set up. It's something which I've talked about quite a few times on my podcast and also when I'm guesting on other podcasts. And I think it's something which, while is massively improving, mental health is not something which people, particularly men who are in the demographic of macho, taking on nature and kind of being in the wilderness in a capacity to prove themselves kind of fashion. Certainly in that space, there isn't a whole lot of people talking about mental health, and hats off to the people who are. I think that while it's great to talk about it and be open about the realities of life, be it when you're out here in the wilderness or trying to grind it out with your job, which can also be sometimes even more stressful and more challenging. Something which people do not talk about are techniques and skills that they have actually used in order to optimize, even minimize the effects of these stresses, to level themselves out. So while many of the things that I'm going to share and have been sharing are immediate physical things that you can do that can have sometimes very quick physiological effects to calm and focus your mind, this one is a little bit more of a slow boiler, but I think it's worth talking about. Someone suggested this to me at a barbecue, actually. And at the time when I heard it, I nodded along and was positive in the conversation, but in my own mind, I kind of laughed at the idea. And I'm imagining that's probably what the feeling is going to be for most people listening. But something that the person recommended to me was to write out things that you're grateful for every day, or as regularly as you can. But usually creating a routine is the best way in order to keep the thing alive and keep it happening. Now, this can be anything from just 3 things just that you write out, and it's easy to worry about, like, how do I think of new things to be grateful for? It doesn't even have to be new things to be grateful for. It could be the same things. But it's just a case of reminding yourself to be aware of the things that are good in your life. So, that's the challenge and the routine, which I at first scoffed at. And then after maybe a year later, I guess my personal circumstances at the time, I was feeling quite depressed. And I thought, well, what do I have to lose? So, decided to give it a go. And what began as just 3 or 5 things to write down that I was grateful for ended up just becoming like a flow. It becoming like a stream of positivity that would come out of me every morning. And that was really very positive. So I also meditate, and that's something that we can talk about another time, but I usually combine the two. So I usually meditate first, and then I take a minute to write down my gratefuls. That used to be on my phone, but then I realized that technology and distractions are right there, and it's those kind of dopamine signals are happening with whatever the stuff coming out of that screen that magically makes me want to get distracted by other things. So I just have a little piece of paper or a small little notebook that I take with me on my hunts or everywhere I go whenever I travel. And that's like part of my process. Just write a few things that I'm grateful for each morning. I'm aware now it sounds super soppy, but it really has had an enormous positive impact. I'd say close to impact level of kind of meditation has in itself. So just doing something, apparently, not a scientist, but apparently what it's doing is it's rerouting the neural pathways in your brain to perceive the world in a way that is more positive. And I can really vouch for it. I've got to say that I find myself traveling sometimes around the world and looking at stuff in a way which I'm searching for the positivity in it, versus what I have done in the past. Not always, but just looking for something to be pissed off about. So yeah, I encourage you to take it, laugh at it if that's what you feel like doing. Maybe just put it in the brain somewhere, and then at some point, maybe if the opportunity arises, give it a go. Maybe try sticking with it for a week or 4 weeks, I think is how long it actually takes to build a proper habit in someone's life. So yeah, choose however long you want to try it for and see how it feels. What have you got to lose? And then let me know. I'd love to hear if it's had any kind of impact. Okay. Thanks for listening. Until next time.